Hi, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here then welcome. My name is Maddie, and today I'll be discussing the true form arc from 2019's Fruits Basket. When I finished my reaction to episode 24, I realized at the end of reacting to it, I have so much to say about this part, but not enough time to do it along with my reaction. So I mentioned, you know what, I think I'll talk about everything I wanted to talk about in a separate video, so that's why we're doing this, and I'm really excited to discuss it. I just wrote out all my thoughts, and I have a lot to say. So let's not waste any more time, because I have a feeling this might be a long video, so I don't want to do a huge intro, but I will be discussing the entirety of episode 24, giving my analysis and my thoughts on it, so let's just get right into it. So I will be discussing each scene in order, or in order for the most part. I might switch a few things around, but most of it's going to be in order. So I'm going to talk about the opening scene first. So before the actual OP opening, we get a little scene that shows Kazuma and Kyo while Kyo is at his mom's funeral, and Kazuma asks him to live with him because basically no one is left to take care of him. I believe it's never mentioned if he's still living with his dad at this time, his biological father. I assume so, but his dad didn't really want anything to do with him, so that's why Kazuma kind of stepped in. I saw a lot of people say like this scene made them like really sad. It made me sad too, but it made me more angry than actually sad, because I can't understand why these Soma adults would say the things that they were saying to a kid. Like, they kept saying that he is at fault for his mother's death, like she killed herself because she had the cat as a son, and you don't say that to a 5-year-old kid who just lost his mom. I don't care if he's cursed. I don't give a crap. Forget the curse. This is an actual child you're saying this to, and the fact that he is so young and he's having to deal with this just makes it even worse, because it just proves how he lost his innocence at such a young age. Like, so much was put on him at so young, so it just really scarred him for life, and is part of why he is so angry all the time, because he was just treated so badly. But luckily, Kazuma did step in and asked him to live with him, and he was raised right, and he had a good life. He still has his hard moments because his entire upbringing to the point when he was like 5 or 6 was just really bad, but Kazuma took such good care of him, so he could have done a lot worse, but he was able to have a good life because of his adopted dad, and I just love their relationship so much. Which, I will get into their relationship right now, because in this episode, Kazuma comes back from training. He had been gone, I think Kyo hasn't seen him in about a year, so it's been a while. He comes back, and Kyo doesn't show it at first, but he is so excited to see Kazuma, and when he gets him alone, he just shows his excitement. It's so weird to see him like that, because he does not openly show happiness at all. Most of the time, he's either brooding or throwing a fit. So to see him smile so much in this episode just made me so freaking happy. And one thing I did notice while I was reading the manga, as I got further into the manga, it started to become so clear that he's the happiest when he is with either Kazuma or Toru. And it's also important to note that they are the only two people in his life who show him any sort of love or respect. And I think that's why he clings himself to them so much. Like, Kyo has a hard time getting along with people. Like, a really, really hard time. But for anyone who shows him any love and respect, he will just attach himself to that person. And it really shows with Kazuma and Toru, because they care about him so much. And it just shows how much. He just wants to be loved and accepted. So when that does happen to him, he just embraces those ones who just really love him. And it's so beautiful to see. I just love the moments when he smiles so much and it just looks so happy. And fortunately in season 2, we're going to get a lot of him being just super happy and smiling. He's going to go through a ton of crap too, but he's also going to have a lot of happy moments that I can't wait to see. Okay, so now we're getting into the tough parts, the parts that I really wanted to talk about in this video. So this is where the actual true form whole ordeal starts. So first I'm going to talk about the part where Kazuma is having a confrontation with Kyo and leading up to him taking off his beads. So this whole scene was just directed so well. The music in it stood out the most to me. I loved the score going on in the background. It set the mood just perfectly. It's one of those soundtracks that just sounds like it has so much feelings of anxiety, and this was a very high tense moment, so it just gave off the mood really well. And music in shows is just so important to me, so that's why I really notice those things when it's done well, so I felt that. Also, the details in Kyo's emotions were just spot on. Throughout this whole reboot, the animators have done such a great job at showing emotions on the characters with like facial expressions. It's really a huge contrast to the original anime that did show expressions, but not as great to the extent that it is shown in here. The expressions on Kyo's face when this was all happening, he looked so scared, my poor baby. I just felt his fear just by looking at him, the way his eyes would get so big. I'm like, no, no, baby. He knew what was going to happen. He knew that Kazuma was going to take off the beads. Like, he had the feeling and he was just freaking out. And when he realized Tora was behind him, he just looked absolutely terrified. Rightfully so, because he never wanted her to see his true form, and that's when it clicked in, you know, what was actually going to happen, and you could just see that panic on him. Oh, it was so sad. But props to the animators for just giving such great instances of facial expressions. It was just so detailed. Then the actual transformation happens, and I did not expect what we saw at all. It's funny because I haven't seen the original anime, and I've read the manga, so you would think I wouldn't be surprised by this, but the way the transformation was animated was just so eerie and just graphic, and I did not expect that. Like, I didn't expect them to actually show Kyo go through the transformation, because I don't think it's ever shown in the manga, him actually transforming. It's kind of just cuts to his true form. I know it's not shown in the original anime. I'm checking right now in my manga copy. I should have done this before, because I'm actually curious, but I don't think so. No, I was right. It kind of just cuts to his his true form, but it doesn't actually show his transformation. Like, it just goes there, and then it just goes there. So it goes to his true form, but you don't actually get to see the process of him transforming, which 2019 showed, and it just looked so freaking scary. And again, Kyo looks so scared throughout it. I felt so bad for him, and I loved the appearance of the actual beast in this adaptation. It looked so cool. One thing that I will really commend 2019 for doing is making the eyes of the beast red, because, and I mentioned this during my reaction, in the original 2001 anime, they made his eyes purple, and I don't really know why. It's just such a random color when they should be red, and making his eyes red while in his beast form, like his actual eyes are in his human form, really gives the illusion that Kyo is still in there, and that's why I love that little detail, because you can still tell it's Kyo because of his eyes. So I'm so glad they kept it red this time around. Okay, so I'm going to talk about another part that happens throughout this whole scene. This is something that I kind of knew before this episode, but 2019 just really brought it to light. They did a good job at showing it, And I'm going to talk about the Soma's reaction to seeing Kyo transform, which was Shigure, Yuki, and Kagura, because they actually did see Kyo transform, and they reacted very, very creepily. And the reason why I found this part so interesting and the revelation that I came to is it really shows how the zodiac curse really affects the Somas and how it does possess them, because, and I might be jumping the gun on here because this isn't really explained until later on in the manga, but it's not really a spoiler at all. But it is told that the zodiac animals do not care about the cat at all. They find him gross and disgusting. So when we see Kagura and Yuki just acting really weird while the transformation was taking place and looking so bothered and disgusted by it, it just makes it all the more eerie, because it feels as though their animals are actually possessing them by the way they act with such disgust and act like they just don't want to look at him. And it's creepy in a sense to me because possession in itself just freaks me out so much. So the thought that these Somas are actually possessed by the zodiac spirits just really creeps me out. And a while ago, for a while, I thought that the Somas only transformed into zodiac animals, but this is the scene that really gave me the realization that the zodiac animals actually possess them. Like, they are the animals. It's hard to put it in a way where it's not exactly possession. I would say they more so are reincarnated as the animals. They're not actually possessed. So they actually are the animals because the spirits of the animals do take over their soul, which just made it all the more interesting because I never realized that before, and I hope that makes sense. But that's just the realization I came up with. And I realized this more so with Kagura's reaction, because normally she's a very bubbly girl, but when the transformation takes place, we see her just looking disgusted. And at some points she would look out the window, like through the curtain, and then she would hide behind the curtain like she just did not want to see it. Even though she normally does care for Kyo, she was acting just repulsed by his appearance. So it just really shows how the animals do possess them, and it's, oh, when you think about it, it's just really, really creepy. Alright, moving on. I'm going to talk about Toru for a little bit. So her reaction to seeing Kyo's transformation was really interesting because you would think she would be more accepting to his true form right away, but what I love that happens is she openly admits that she is terrified of him, and rightfully so, because even if my loved one turned into a monster like this, I would be scared. Like, even if I initially loved the person or were their friend, like, I would be freaked out. So her reaction was really realistic, and I love that she just didn't accept him right away. She didn't look like she wasn't scared of him. She was scared. And some people like to label Toru as a very doormat character, which this right here proves that she isn't. She can have a hard time accepting someone if she's like scared of him, like here, because she even admits, I don't know what to do. What is the right thing to do? And only after that does she decide to at least try to go after him. So she had a little bit of a struggle actually coming to terms with his true form and didn't know if she could accept him at first, but that changes later on. And I'll get back into Toru later. Right now I'm going to talk about Kyo's backstory, a part that I was excited for, but actually was not ready for. So I'm mostly going to talk about his mom, because his mom does show up in flashbacks during this episode. So Kyo's mom is really polarizing to fans. There are some who do not necessarily like her, but they understand her. And then there's the other side that really don't like her and see her as a horrible parent who didn't care about her child. And that's why I think it's just so fun to discuss her, because everyone has a lot of different opinions about her. So I do want to give my side and my analysis on her character and her intentions when it came to Kyo. So here we go. This is going to be probably the longest part of this video because I have a lot to say. And I'm probably going to read right from my script. I haven't been doing that throughout this video, but since there's so much to say, I don't want to ramble. So Kyo's mom had the tendency to use her love to block out the truth of his true form. But like I said, there's a lot who come to the conclusion that she never loved Kyo and that she only pretended to when she secretly hated him for being the cat. But to me, that doesn't really make sense. What I think was the case is that she pushed her love onto him so that she wouldn't upset him by telling him that she was scared of his true form. But the ironic thing is that it actually had the opposite effect because Kyo could see right through her and he could tell that she was afraid of him. And what makes it really sad, and this is something that I just really noticed while I was watching this episode, is as a child having to go through the thought that your original form is a monster, having to go through that alone without anyone being there to help you through it has to be really scary. There's two instances where Kyo does go through the transformation of his true form. One is with Kagura and the other is with Akito. And then later on, and I think this happens shortly after his true form transformation, Kyo's mom comes to him and Kyo is shown sulking and she instantly assures him, "I still love you." And she tries to tell him and make him believe that his true form, or being the cat in general, isn't who he is. But the truth of the matter is that his cat spirit and his true form is a part of him. So by his mother saying, like, your true form isn't who you are, that's not who you are, she's basically saying, I don't accept all of you. And I do think that her telling him this was supposed to be kind sentiments, but when you look at the context of Kyo's situation and her words, it just really was not a smart thing to do. And it does so much harm. What she should have done, in my opinion, is tell him that yes, she is scared of him, but she still loves him and she loves him enough to want to help him to get through his fear with being the cat and the fear of having to deal with his true form. Because all Kyo ever wanted, and he expresses this in the anime, was for his mom to see him for who he really is and see that his true form is a part of him and say that she was willing to help him get through it. Even though she was scared, she would help him get through his worries and allow him to throw his anxieties onto her. That's all he wanted, was just the support to get through this. But his mom, unfortunately, was just so terrified of his real form that she just blocked it out. She pretended it didn't exist, and that only made Kyo feel all the more alone, which resulted in him not having anyone to help him go through this. And going back to my original point where some saying that Kyo's mom actually didn't love him doesn't make a lot of sense to me, because it doesn't really make sense that someone would fake their love when they're secretly disgusted by them. I just feel like that's a lot of work. Like, wouldn't it be easier just to admit that you don't like your child and are disgusted by them and treat them horribly? It just seems so much harder to put on an act than to do that. So that's the main reason why it doesn't make sense to me. And also, in my observation, I feel like she really did love Kyo because she omitted the truth about her fear for him, so she wouldn't hurt his feelings. That's just how it comes out to me. It seems to me that she really didn't want to hurt his feelings because she loves him that much. So I think part of her truly did love Kyo, but not all of her, because she could not accept his true form at all. But the main thing is that she tried to love him and she really wanted to. So for that reason, I will always defend her, because I believe her intentions for her son were still good. And I like to think that had she still been alive and in present day had Kyo told her that her hiding her true feelings for him really bothered him and did more harm than good for him, I think she would have felt terrible and she would have apologized. And maybe if Kyo had told her this, that would have given her the motivation to actually help him get through dealing with his true form, because all she ever wanted was for Kyo to be happy. She didn't want to upset him, and she thought she was doing the right thing by constantly telling him that she loves him and wasn't scared of him, but it, like I said, had the opposite effect. And unfortunately, though, she is dead, so that would never happen, but I do like to think that it would if she had still been alive. Alright, now we're gonna move on. That was a lot. I knew that was going to be the longest part of this video. We're gonna go on to the part where Toru tries to convince Kyo to come home. So this does tie into what his feelings are with his mother and that whole situation. So because his mom used love as a mask so that she wouldn't see him for who he really is, wouldn't see his true form, Kyo had a really warped idea on love. He just saw it as something that did more harm than it did good, because his mom used her love so that she wouldn't see him. So that's why he's seen rejecting Toru, telling her to go away, telling her that he does not want her pity, does not want her help, because he's only ever seen love as something very toxic. So that's why he just tries to push her away, because he believes it's going to hurt him, because he's been hurt by sentiments of love before when he believes it wasn't really love. However, as we see, Toru does prove to be different, because she handled the situation the complete opposite way that his mother did. She does admit to him that she is scared of him, but she cares about him enough to want to stay with him and to want to help him through this, through his anxieties with being the cat and having this true form. And she's willing to listen to him when he's worried and to let him just throw his burdens on her like he allowed her to do with him. So she wants to treat him the same way. She just wants to understand what he's going through. And this here is just what Kyo and Toru's relationship is all about, which I won't talk a lot about that because you'll see that in season 2, so it's kind of too early to talk about that. But we've seen a little bit already where they just have such a supportive relationship. They are always openly communicative with each other. They talk about their hardships with each other, and that's just something that's really important in a relationship, is communication and support. And that's why I think Kyo and Toru are just such a good example of a healthy relationship, because they actually do talk to each other about the hard stuff, the very deep stuff that they normally probably wouldn't want to talk about with anyone else, but they are comfortable about to talk about with one another. And then after Toru says that she wants to worry with him, wants to understand him, and is scared of him, but she still loves him anyway, Kyo just takes her and hugs her and says her name for the first time, which absolutely killed me. You saw it on video if you saw my reaction. It just, killed me so much, because up to this point, Kyo has not said Toru's name at all, but it's when she openly accepts him that he just lets herself say her name, because the reason why he would not say her name is because he has been trying not to get close to her. He doesn't like to let anyone in. He just pushes a lot of people out, so he was just trying to not let her into his life and his feelings. And there is a reason for that, but it is a spoiler, so I will not give the reason. You will probably find out in like season 3, so it's a long way away, but there is a reason why he tries to distance himself from her so much. So this was such a big deal, because by him saying her name means that he is allowing himself to get close to her on a very intimate level. That is just such a big deal, and it just makes me so freaking happy. It's just, I just love them so much, and it's the main reason why I'm just so excited for season 2, because there's going to be a lot of them in season 2, and it's going to be amazing. And this next thing is something else that I really have to commend 2019 on, because it made me so freaking happy. It's the fact that Toru decided herself to go after Kyo and try to bring him home. If you don't know, in the original anime, the 2001 version, it was lot different. The True Form arc was really different to how it is in the 2019 version. Reason being is that all the characters had to push Toru to go after him, and it just made her seem really weak because she had to have everyone around her try and just push her and force her to go after him. So it wasn't like she really made her own decision to run after him and bring him home. Others were pretty much forcing her to. It just made her seem so weak, and that's not at all how it was in the manga. In the manga, as well as the 2019 version, she decided for herself to go after him and try to convince him to come home. And I just love that because it just makes her so much more of a stronger character who can make her own decisions. And it also shows how much she actually cares about Kyo because she made that decision herself to try to go after him, even though she probably knew it was going to be very hard because he was in a really bad place. She still did it because she cared about him that much. That's why I really, really wanted to see her just make that decision herself, and 2019 gave us that because they're following the manga this time, unlike 2001 who just did their own thing and made it so much worse. Like, I'm just so happy that she actually made that decision for herself because it just made her such a strong character that I love. Alright, now talking about the ending. In the ending, we get Kyo's monologue, which is just so beautiful and hits me in the feels so hard. Now, I have watched both the dub and the sub to this episode, and I will admit that I do prefer the dub and how they handled Kyo's monologue. I just thought it had more emotion than the sub did, which I'm scared to say because so many people hate on dubs, but that's just my opinion, okay? I still love the sub. I still think it was good. I just love the dub more. Alright? So let's get that out there. But I just think Jerry Jewell just did such an amazing job with Kyo's performance throughout this whole episode. Not just the monologue, it was just all so good. Every line he delivered held so much emotion. You can just hear the tenderness, the love, and the relief in his voice so clearly, and I just felt every single line. He has come a long way to how his voice sounded in the 2001 version. It still sounds the same, but in 2019 his voice holds so much more emotion in it. It's just shows so much growth in his whole voice acting. He just did Kyo's performance throughout this whole episode just so well. I felt that. I felt every single line he was saying. And let's talk about Kyo's words themselves because they were so sweet. Knowing the full story and knowing Kyo's full character arc, it gives a very new context to what he's saying, which I won't talk about because it is spoilers. It will include spoilers, so I can't talk about it, but knowing the full story makes you understand why he was saying what he was saying about Toru. So it gives me so many more feelings. So I have to be very vague in saying that because I can't give spoilers away. But yeah, like I said, he has tried to push her away. So when he does say that he wants to treasure her and stay with her, that's also a big deal. As much as a big deal as saying her name was. So I'll just leave it at that. Kyo pretty much just says that he just can't resist her as much as he wants to. Like, he says he knows it's a mistake to be with her, but he can't help it because he's just, dare I say, falling in love with her. Because he really is. So, I just loved his monologue. It just makes me cry every single time I hear it. Alright, so I'm fanning myself because I'm getting super hot because I've been sitting here for 45 minutes. It's been a long... Yeah, this is going to be a long video. I hope you guys enjoyed my analysis and discussion on the True Form arc. Let me know your thoughts on this arc and episode 24 in general. It definitely is my favorite episode of 2019's Fruits Basket. I thought it was so well done. I loved every single second of it. Gave me all the emotions that I knew I was going to have, and this isn't even the most devastating part of the series. It's just going to get so much more sadder and will give you so many more feelings. So I want to know what you thought of this arc. Let me know in the comments so we can discuss it. Okay, so this is not the only Fruits Basket review I have coming. I'm gonna be reviewing season 1 really soon. That should be coming out in a few days. So again, I'll be talking about Fruits Basket again, even though this season is over. Even though I won't be doing reactions anymore. I still have a lot more Fruits Basket content planned during the hiatus, so it's gonna be a fun time. So, myself. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe down below for more bookish related videos, Fruits Basket videos, because there'll be more of that, and anime videos, and I'll be back really soon. Bye!